Hello, everyone, and welcome to the new series. Like I talked about last week when we talked all things nervous system and we wrapped that up. And if you haven't listened to that series, definitely go listen to that first because the nervous system is a key component in what we're talking about today. And it's why we feel a lot of the things we feel is because our nervous system is in such a state of dysregulation. So go watch that series first, then come to this series. This series, we're going to focus on anxiety symptoms explained. It is the most frustrating thing when you are dealing with something that people say is in your mind, such as a mental health struggle, and you think, but why is it mostly so physical for me? It is the most physical thing I ever went through, and I have had actual real health issues before and anxiety physical symptoms truly mimicked, masked, and were even worse than some of the other things. So I really want to share this because I think awareness for me, education, I was so lost. When I first started dealing with anxiety, I had a hard time accepting that the things I was dealing with was just anxiety. And I say just anxiety because it's definitely not like that simple, but I had a hard time accepting that diagnosis versus going down this rabbit hole of doctors and specialists because it was so physical for me. And I want to start this episode not with you're fine, not with it's just anxiety. Like I said, I hate when people say just anxiety because you're like, if you only knew. And trust me, I do know. But mostly because if you're here, that's probably the exact phrase that has made you feel dismissed before. And that's why I don't like saying just anxiety because the amount of times I have felt that way when people have said, oh, it's just anxiety. And in your head, you're like, okay, sounds so dismissive. That sounds so, in a weird way, hurtful. So instead, I want to say this: what you're feeling makes sense. Not in a you're dying way, but in a your body is doing something very, very intentional and no one has explained it properly kind of way. Because here's the truth most people are stuck in. You feel symptoms, you go looking for answers, your tests come back normal, and instead of relief, you feel more confused. And that confusion turns into fear, and that is the exact cycle I went through. I felt like I just couldn't figure it out. I was getting so frustrated about what doctor I needed to go to because nobody's testing the right things or they're missing something. It becomes, if nothing is wrong, then why do I feel this bad? And then there's a layer of shame that starts coming in shame, embarrassment. I felt all of these emotions. And that question alone is enough to keep you stuck for years before trying something. And let me tell you, I spent years, probably, I would probably say 2 years before I think I even really accepted that I was struggling with anxiety. Before I ever really was like, okay, maybe this isn't something truly physically wrong with me and it is my mental health. And so this series is not me convincing you that nothing is wrong because that's also never going to bring you peace. Reassurance, going doctor to doctor, being told all your tests are fine, it gives you like a day or two of peace and then you're on to the next thing. So, this episode isn't about giving you reassurance. It's me helping you understand what actually is happening in your body and why all these physical symptoms can happen. Because when you understand something, you stop fighting it the same way. And that's where it really helped me because I like to know how things work, how things operate, why things happen. And so me having all the education on why I was feeling these certain things really started to make sense to me. And I started having more compassion for myself and more of an understanding when I did feel a symptom or a certain way, I knew where it was coming from. And so we have a huge misunderstanding about anxiety and I am guilty of that like I said. I think one of the biggest problems is that we've been taught anxiety is a mental issue. And so I think that's why when people were telling me it was anxiety, when I was experiencing the most physical, debilitating symptoms, it didn't make sense to me. It's like, this is a mental thing. This is not a physical thing. Anxiety is a mental thing. Um, you think it's worrying and fear, and you think that that can't be physical, but anxiety is a physiological state. It is a full body response driven by your nervous system, which means you can have very real, very intense physical symptoms without there being structural damage or disease. You can. And that's where people get tripped up, like I did, because we've been taught physical symptoms equals something physically wrong. But that's not always true. There is a difference between structural problems, something broken, inflamed, diseased, and functional responses. Your body is reacting, adapting, and protecting. Anxiety lives in that second category. And functional responses can feel just as intense, even more, even sometimes more. So let me say that again. There's structural problems and then functional responses. When you are struggling with anxiety or mental health and your nervous system is just flaring, adapting, protecting, reacting, it is having a functional response. And that functional response that we have can cause a cascade of symptoms. So, what your body is actually doing, let's break this down in a way that actually makes sense. Your body has one primary job, and that's to keep you alive. Our bodies want to keep us alive. Our body has, it's so smart. It can be truly put through a lot and find a way to stay alive. It's like even when you think about the concept of sweating, when you're working out, sweating is a way for your body found a way to cool itself down to keep your core body temperature perfect. Like that, like just the body knows what to do. We don't have to tell it to sweat, right? So it does that by constantly scanning for threat. It keeps us alive by constantly scanning for threat. Not just lions and car accidents, but internal sensations too. And when your brain perceives something as a threat, again, perceived being the key word, it activates your stress response to respond to this perceived threat. Once again, keyword perceived. Now, here's where what most people don't realize. That response is not subtle. It is not designed to feel calm. It is designed to prepare you to survive something. So, what happens when it has a perceived threat of some sort and it's doing this stress response? Adrenaline is then released, cortisol is released, blood flow shifts away from digestion and towards muscles. That's why some people get upset stomachs. And we will, like I said, touch on every single common symptom that I hear a lot and that I experienced. And we will go through each one and kind of what you can feel and why that exact symptom happens. So back to what I was saying. Your breathing becomes faster or more shallow, muscles tighten. That's why sometimes after a panic attack, if you know what I'm talking about, you can feel like you just ran a marathon. You're like, why am I so fatigued and my body's so tight? Yeah, that's why. Or you're like me and you go see a chiropractor, which I don't like adjustments. I don't do adjustments. Maybe that's a me problem. I read something once and it freaked me out. But anyways, I went to see one and they were like looking at my neck and helping my neck and massaging there. And she was like, oh my gosh, you are so tense. And I'm like, yeah, that's years of anxiety. Oops. But yeah, your heart rate can increase. And now I want you to pause for a second. If I just described all of that to you, you would probably say, that sounds like something is wrong. Like that list of symptoms, somebody would be like, oh, something's wrong with you. You should go see a doctor. Like if you just told somebody that list of symptoms and they don't know anything about anxiety, they would be like, oh my gosh, are you okay? But like I said, you've gone doctor to doctor, you've gone specialist to specialist, you've done all the tests, and they say nothing is wrong with you. You are being activated. And the issue isn't that your body is doing this. The issue is that it's doing it when there is no actual danger. Back to that keyword, perceived danger, a perceived stress, your body perceiving things. The symptoms feel so specific and scary. So this is where people really spiral because it's not just I feel anxious, it's my heart is doing something weird. My head feels off. I'm dizzy. My vision feels weird. I feel disconnected. I feel like I'm going to pass out. And your brain immediately goes, okay, this is not anxiety. This is something serious. It takes those key thoughts we have where we feel a symptom, we think it's this thing, and our body reacts immediately. Our body, like I said, is so freaking smart. It's too smart. I almost want to tell my body to chill sometimes. But here's what's actually happening. It's the stress response doesn't just create one sensation, it creates a cascade of changes across multiple systems. Our body is a system. Our body is a insane, like think of an assembly line. It is an insane assembly line where one thing triggers another thing and another thing. It's the best way to put it in simple terms, but it's a bunch of systems put together as an assembly line. It creates, like I said, a cascade of changes across multiple symptoms when we have that stress response. So, depending on where your body holds tension, how your breathing shifts, how sensitive your nervous system is, what you've experienced before, you will feel it differently. Some people feel it in their chest, some people in their head, some people in their stomach, some in their balance or their vestibular system, and none of that is random. It's patterned. So once your brain learns that pattern, it starts to expect it, and expectation alone can trigger the response again. So it almost creates this pattern recognition that when we feel A plus B, we equal C, right? It's a very unwanted pattern that it learns, right? And so this is another thing. People are like, okay, but I started feeling the symptoms even when I wasn't anxious. But it's like, okay, where's your nervous system been the last couple weeks? Where, like, you might not be anxious right now, but your nervous system has been dysregulated for so long. Like, it is stuck in this pattern of wanting to protect you. So this is another thing. When you're in these patterns, this might be the most important part of this entire episode. Your brain assigns importance based on attention. So when you notice a sensation and think, what is that? Your brain immediately goes, oh, we care about this. And it starts monitoring it and constantly checking and scanning that exact thing. So if right now I was going to tell you to focus on your tongue, focus on the size of your tongue, the texture of your tongue. Does your tongue feel big in your mouth? And the more I start telling you this, you're really going to notice your tongue. And that is because our brains are insane, truly. Our brains can just really hyperfixate and focus on the things we give attention to. So when something is being constantly monitored, it becomes amplified. Like I said, if we bring that attention to our tongues right now, our tongue will suddenly feel huge and almost like we don't really know what to do with it. And then we're figuring out, do we put it at the top of our mouth, the bottom of our mouth, things we never usually think about. Suddenly, we are so focused on it. And it's not because anything's getting bad or hurt or worse, but it's because it's no longer in the background. It's like hearing your heartbeat at night. It didn't just start happening, you just tuned into it. So, like, you'll talk to people who don't struggle with anxiety and they'll say they never feel their heartbeat. And it's not because they have a different heartbeat than you, which a lot of people with anxiety think that they have like a bounding heartbeat or something wrong with their heart. But it's just because you are focused on your heart because you believe there's an issue with your heart. So you just tuned into it. And then you layer fear on top of it and your body stays activated, which keeps that sensation and the cycle going, which reinforces the belief that something is wrong. And now you're in that loop, the constant loop of symptom, focus, attention, more symptoms, more sensation, worry. It's this whole loop. Why reassurance isn't fixing it. And this is the biggest thing that we have to recognize. I think for the longest time, I was like, feeling such a relief going to doctors, even though I knew or I was told I was okay and I would go to like a second opinion. You get kind of addicted to the reassurance because it gives you a moment's peace, right? Like you just want a little bit of peace. Like you just want to be relieved from your obsessive thoughts of, I can't stop thinking about my heart and I think something's wrong with it. So I'm going to go doctor to doctor. But this is the part I know a lot of you are stuck in, and I was stuck in it myself. You've been checked multiple times a day. You check yourself. Doctors say you're okay. Tests are normal. And for a moment, you feel relief, like I said. But it doesn't last because the issue isn't lack of information. It's the lack of felt safety in your body. We talk about this in the nervous system series. Why our nervous system is dysregulated is because it has this sense of a lack of safety. And we really want to give our body and our nervous system safety and structure. Our body loves safety. And when it's lived in this pattern of feeling unsafe and feeling like it has to protect itself all the time and control situations to avoid bad things to happen, it doesn't feel safe. And it keeps that cycle going because it wants to feel safe. And you can logically know you're okay and still feel like you're not. That's one of the hardest parts because your nervous system hasn't caught up to you yet. It hasn't caught up to what you're thinking. And that's why it isn't solved by more Googling, more testing, more reassurance. It's solved by changing your relationship with the sensations themselves. And we're going to get into that in this series. We're going to get into each symptom and then finding a way to make peace with each sensation. So, if you take nothing else from this episode, I want you to take this. Your symptoms are not random. Your body is not broken. You are not the only person who has felt this way. Your symptoms are not unique as much as you think they are. I used to think that. I'm like, okay, wait, but I don't think this is anxiety. I was not unique. You are not unique. You are experiencing a body that is trying to protect you, and a little too aggressively. And instead of fearing it, we're going to start understanding it, because when you understand something, you stop reacting to it the same way. And that's where things start to shift. So, the next episode for this series, we are going to start diving into all the symptoms. Like I said, we're going to start with heart symptoms and we're going to go from there. And we're just going to dive into like what people feel, why you feel that way, why that exact symptom can happen, and ways to ground yourself and help yourself through those sensations. This was one of the most debilitating things for me when I was struggling really, really bad, is living in those constant symptoms every day. And I didn't, when I was going through this, I don't even think Reddit was really a thing. I remember there was one girl on Instagram influencing wasn't really a thing. There was one girl on Instagram and she gave me so much peace. She wasn't any type of practitioner. She was just a girl going through anxiety and sharing her journey along the way. And that's all I want to be. And I remember making a little deal with God and saying, hey, if I can get through this, if I can find a way out of this, I promise to share my story and share anything I learned just to help people who are going through this too, because I never wanted anybody to feel as alone as I did in those moments. So if you do feel alone, we have a free Facebook group of a community of amazing people. I will put the link in the show notes. Come join the Facebook group. Come join a community of people who get you. You don't have to go through this alone. And also, there's so many solutions and healing things and techniques that we talk about and will learn to help you, like I said, regulate your nervous system and in the long term, have your body feel safe again. I promise you can find safety again. I'm not saying you're never going to feel anxious again. It's normal to feel anxious sometimes. I'm just saying you don't always have to be at a 10. So I will see you guys next week. Thank you for tuning into this new series. I'm very excited about it. I'm very passionate about it. And I look forward to talking with you guys next week. Bye.